Hello and welcome to our presentation today, Supporting Language Development. Our agenda for today, a welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to talk about language development, dual language learners, the importance of reading and storytelling, some activities for home, and an opportunity to ask questions. So welcome. My name is Miranda Mast, and I am a speech language pathologist consultant on the Special Education and Support Services team at Adams County Head Start. My role is to support teachers, parents, and students in the classroom. I also connect students and families with private services, clinic or home-based services, as well as connecting students and families with district-based services through an IEP or an individualized education plan. So let's talk about language development. So first, I like to start off with typical language development. In Head Start, we have children ages 3 to 5. So we're going to go between ages 3 and 4 first. So lots of times families will ask me, what is typical? What should my child be doing? And here is a table for us to chat through. We think about language in a couple different areas, and the two we're going to talk about today will be receptive language, which is hearing and understanding, and expressive language, which is talking. So for hearing and understanding, what would you expect a child to do between the ages of 3 and 4 years of age? We would expect for them to respond when you call them from another room, understand words for some colors, like red, blue, and green, understand words for some shapes, like circle and square, and understand words for family, like brother, grandmother, and aunt. For talking, we would expect a 3 to 4-year-old to have about 1,000 to 1,600 words, answer simple who, what, and where questions. So that can be like, what is your brother wearing today? Who is coming over for dinner? Says rhyming words like hat and cat, and uses pronouns like I, you, me, we, and they. Using some plural words like toys, birds, and buses. And most people understand what your child is saying. They ask questions like when and how, and they can put together a sentence of 4 words. And they can also talk about what happened during their day. So this is what we would expect of a typical developing 3 to 4-year-old. So what should we expect for a typically developing 4 to 5-year-old? We would expect them in their receptive language, so their understanding and hearing, to be able to understand words for order, like first, next, and last. Understand words for time, like yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Follows longer instructions, like put your pajamas on, brush your teeth, and pick out a book. Follows classroom directions, like draw a circle on your paper around something you eat, and hears and understands most of what they hear at home and in school. That second portion of language, expressive language, so the talking that they do, we would expect their vocabulary to increase to about 1,600 to 2,500 words. Says all speech sounds and words, and may make mistakes on sounds that are harder to say. Responds to, what did you say? Talks without repeating sounds or words most of the time. Names letters and numbers. Uses sentences that have more than one action words, like jump, play, and get. Tells a short story. Is able to keep a conversation going. and talks in a different way depending on the listener and place. So, for example, they might use baby talk with younger siblings. So, shorter sentences, maybe a higher pitch, like, hi, baby. Or they may talk louder when they're outside playing. So, this is what we would expect of typically developing children from 3 to 5 years of age. So, if you wanted to take a moment and see kind of where your child is at and what they are working on, to have a picture in your mind moving forward of how do we support them in continuing their language development. The beautiful thing is that Head Start works on many of these milestones, especially those more academic things like learning shapes and numbers and colors, learning about today and tomorrow and yesterday. Head Start goes through daily schedules to help students understand their place and time. And also, they work on expanding their vocabulary by introducing them to different lessons. So at Head Start, their teachers are already working on all of this language development. And what I wanted to do today is share why language development is important and also things that you can do at home to support your child. So why is language development important? It really supports communicating wants and needs. You can maybe remind yourself when your child was slightly younger, or if they're struggling with speech and communication, how frustrating it can be getting their wants and needs met, like wanting to ask you for something to eat and they don't have the words yet. It can be very frustrating. Supporting your child's ability to express and understand feelings. This is so important, especially coming into the preschool world at Head Start and communicating their feelings to their peers and their teachers. Language development helps your child's thinking abilities, which can lead to academic success. So all of this early language development is really tied to early literacy, understanding academic concepts. Language development helps develop and maintain relationships. They're able to talk to parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, friends, teachers, and really learn about others and teach others about them. Language development and early language development lays a foundation for reading and writing skills. So this is going to benefit them when they're in first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade and beyond. And when children are able to communicate, their confidence and overall well-being increase. So dual language learners, we have such a beautiful population of dual language learners in our schools. And I always like to take a time to talk about this because there are some common misconceptions about dual language learners. So let's jump in. So a dual language learner is a child who is learning two languages at once. And this can mean that one language is spoken at home and one language is spoken at school. And because they are under the age of 5, if they're hearing both of these languages simultaneously, it means they're learning dual languages. If a child does not have a speech or language problem or delay, or if they do have a speech or language problem, it's going to show up in both languages. If, for example, they're stronger in their home language, say that's Spanish or French, but they're still learning English, that's not a language delay. What that is just them learning that language that they might not have had much exposure to. If, for example, there's language spoken at home, such as Spanish, and English at school, and you're noticing your child a little lower on both of them, or having trouble in Spanish, not speaking as often, as clearly, or having as many words in their vocabulary, putting those phrases and sentences together, and also they're doing that in the school-based language, that can be indicative of a speech and language challenge. So if that were the case, if you have any questions, I'm always going to make myself available to answer any questions that you may have about that. Learning a new language does not cause a speech or language problems or make them worse. So that's kind of the common misconception I get is, should I stop speaking Spanish at home? And I always tell families, no, please continue the language in which your family speaks. And they will also get that language at school if they have a bilingual teacher or exposure to English, because there are benefits to dual language learners. So let's talk about those advantages. An advantage of being bilingual is there's a big connection to culture. They're able to maintain family culture and speak with all family members across generations. Learning. Lots of times, students are better at learning new words and reading skills. Problem solving. They're producing solutions for problems quicker because they have to access lots of portions of their brain. Connecting with others. They're able to connect with others and listen to others differently. And also cognition, so how their brain is working and operating. There's oftentimes increased creativity and flexibility with individuals who are bilingual. So there's lots of benefits. So I always say continue to speak both languages, continue to expose your child to both languages. With or without a language delay, it's very important that they have the opportunity to learn both of these languages. So let's jump into what you can do to continue to support your child when they're at home with you. It could be, in the evenings, on the weekends, during summer, past Head Start and beyond. So something that is very beneficial is reading and storytelling. Reading can be just typical reading some of your favorite books together. So I've put a few of my favorite books here to read to the preschool population. So The Color Monster is a good one about supporting emotions. Daniel Goes to the Dentist. Daniel Tiger has a beautiful series of books that talk about different life experiences. It prepares students and people what to expect when doing certain things, going to the dentist, going to bed, going to the doctor. And oftentimes this can prepare kids for experiences that they might not have had yet, or experiences that might cause a little anxiety, so they know what to expect. There's classics like The Hungry Caterpillar, Brown Bear, Brown Bear. A lot of these books have some repetition. We want kids to be able to predict what they're reading because that will help them learn words and vocabulary. And of course, Pete the Cat has beautiful rhyming words, which is directly tied to literacy. So some of these books are actually being read in the Head Start classrooms, and you can also read them at home. The other thing that I always like to share is storytelling is very similar to book reading. And other cultures might have storytelling as part of their culture instead of book reading often. So telling stories about your life, multiple generations in the past, make believe, pretend play, connecting with your child and sharing a piece of you, a piece of your culture can be really helpful. Does the same things in terms of vocabulary building, supporting make believe. So some of these benefits that we have already talked about include early literacy skills. So when you're reading to your child or you're storytelling to your child, they're learning new sounds and words and language. And this can be done in any language you feel most comfortable. Storytelling and reading also sparks imagination and curiosity. It helps them think of different worlds and puts themselves into different scenarios, situations. It helps their cognitive abilities. It helps develop their brain and their ability to focus and concentrate. So you might have noticed as your child grows, they might have only been able to pay attention for a short period of time and only look at pictures in the books. And as they continue to grow, their attention span is going to increase where they're able to understand the story, tell you parts of the story, even after ask questions about the story. The cultural piece, it's going to help your child learn about the world, your culture, and other cultures. And social emotional development, it teaches social skills and it helps your child understand new events. So storytelling and book reading can be some of the most beneficial things that you can do with your child. So let's talk about some activities for home. I want it to make it easy for you and your family to be able to pick some activities to do at home and make them enjoyable and easy for you to remember. So this is a 3-3-1 method where I'm encouraging all of you to do 3 minutes of learning a day, read or story tell 3 times a week, and pick one new activity a week to engage with your student. So the 3 minutes of learning a day, I want this to be learning at any time. So I have a few examples here. Meal times, in the car, and during laundry. So you're going to pick just everyday tasks that your family is a part of, that your child can be a part of too. So for example, during mealtime is a great time to talk about vocabulary. You can label the food names. You can talk about the colors on your plate, the adjectives about how foods taste or smell. So what this might look like is when you hand them their plate full of food, you can point it out and talk about what you're putting on their plate. It could be like sandwich, chips, apples, or even better, you can ask them to help prepare the food with you and talk about it. You can talk about cutting as an action, cutting with a little knife, spreading that mayo or that mustard on there, placing the cheese on top. And then you can experience it as well when you're eating the chips. Crunch. Oh, that's crunchy and salty. So that way you're teaching new vocabulary to them. So again, I'm not asking you to take 15 minutes out of your day. This can just be a couple of minutes where you're describing the food. In the car, I know as a parent, we spend lots of time in the car going back and forth to places. So sometimes playing like I Spy with colors and objects, even when you're waiting for an appointment, what you can do is you can sit in a waiting room and say, I spy something blue, so that they're using their cognitive abilities. They're learning some of the academic stuff and utilizing that outside of the classroom where they're finding something blue, something that's shaped like a ball. During laundry, finding certain colors, helping sort the laundry. That might be helpful for you all as parents. All the big clothes can be moms and dads, and all the little clothes can be, brothers and sisters and yours. You can talk about colors. You can talk about the different types of fabric, or if it's a shirt or pants. So 3 minutes of learning a day where you just pick one, maybe 2 activities, and you just talk out loud about what you're experiencing. The next one is reading or storytelling 3 times a week. Pick a time of day that works for you. It might be at bedtime where reading is more comfortable. It could be storytelling while you're getting ready, in the bathroom, doing your hair or your makeup, or preparing, your lunch for that day, and your child is right next to you. You can start storytelling, reading those books at night or right after school. So picking 3 times a week to do this. You can have your child pick the book or ask them to tell you a story as well, or retell a story. And it's totally okay for a child to want to read the same books over and over again. What they really want to do is predict their world, feeling comfort in what is known and what is expected. So oftentimes you'll have a child pick the book over and over and over again. And something that I also like to do is when you're reading the book, if you've read it multiple times, you're like, wow, this is the 20th time we've read this book. Sometimes I'll read the sentence and leave out the last word and just pause and see if the student or your child remembers that final word. And the last thing is picking one new activity a week. So pick one day a week for a new adventure. This could be on the weekend. This can be after school one night, on Friday, on Thursday after school. I'm going to present a packet. So your family support services coordinator will have given you guys a packet of different activities that you can do. You can just pull from that packet. It gives you some instructions of, different words that you can highlight and utilize while you guys are going to the library, playing with chalk, riding bike, playing soccer. So you guys can pick one of these activities and do it together. And this will help your child's language progress. You can utilize this for the summertime when they're not in school as well. I always like to talk about strategies too. while you're doing these activities, because the strategies are what's important. Sometimes as a parent, you might feel like maybe I'm talking too much or I'm asking them too many questions and my child is shutting down and not wanting to engage. So here are 4 strategies that you can utilize while you're doing the 3-3-1, right? The 3 minutes of learning a day, the 3 times of reading a book or storytelling, and the 1 activity. So the first one we're going to chat about is called self-talk. So self-talk is when a caregiver talks out loud about what you're doing, seeing, eating, touching, thinking while your child is present. So I like to think about this kind of like as a sports announcer. So when you're watching the soccer match, they're kind of describing what is going on around you, what is going on in the field, what different players are doing. Same thing when you're interacting with your student, with your child. So it could look like when you're eating lunch together and you're saying, I'm going to have a bite of this sandwich. That sandwich tastes so good. I see pickles, I see tomatoes, I see turkey, I see cheese. So what this is doing is you're talking about your own experiences. And what's happening is your child is sitting next to you and they're like little sponges. They're kind of soaking up all of this information. They're hearing all this new language. And they're also seeing you be a very good model that they can just talk out loud. This is a really good strategy because it takes a lot of the pressure off. Sometimes as adults, when we're interacting with children, we ask a ton of questions. And sometimes what you notice is if you ask questions, there's too many expectations on a child. And instead of opening up, they actually kind of go into their little shell a little bit. So instead, when there's no pressure around language and you're just talking out loud, that can really encourage the student to feel comfortable to talk out loud as well. Another great strategy is called expansion. So expansion is a strategy when you're like, wow, my child is using 1, 2, 3 word phrases, but I really want to help get them to 4 and 5 word phrases. So what you're going to do is you're going to wait until your child says a word, and then you're going to expand their utterance by adding another word to what they said. So this is a good one for when they're requesting something. So if they're saying, Mama, apple, you can say, Mama, apple, please. Mama, more apple. Mama, green apple. So what you're doing is you're just sneaking in another word that they can use with that phrase. And again, we're not pressuring them. We're not saying, say more apple, please. Instead, you're just modeling it for them. Kids will learn language the best when they are absorbing it like sponges and not being made to do it. So what we're trying to do is instead of making the conversation all about what we want to talk about, we're actually going to drop our language down to their level and give lots of models. And they're going to come up with us just like a little ladder. So we're just trying to be at their level and give them strategies for them to understand and practice. Another great strategy is a communication temptation. So say if you guys are going to play with chalk outside, that's one of the activities that I'm going to give you all. You might put some chalk inside of a container that they can't open. And what you're going to do is you're going to put it within plain sight of them. But if they can't open it, then that's a great opportunity for them to request some help. So when they request that help, they're actually communicating with you. It might be also that you're taking that chalk and maybe they really like the blue chalk and you're going to play with it and play with it and play with that. And they might request by grabbing it. They might request by screaming or getting upset. And that's a really good time to model what you want them to say. Chalk, more, chalk, please. I want blue chalk. So that way you're giving them the opportunity. You're teaching them how to communicate. The last strategy that I like to share is clear models. So I get the question a lot too of, my child isn't clear. They're making some articulation mistakes or intelligibility. So intelligibility is when they're speaking and they're not very clear. So what we can do, lots of times between the ages of 3 and 5, there's a lot of little mistakes that kids are making that are totally age appropriate because they're learning lots of sounds. So what you can do is give them clear models in return. So if your child does not produce a word correctly, repeat it back to them clearly. So say if they're saying something like "Lello chalk," so yeah, yellow chalk. So you're just giving them that model. So the Lello for yellow, that's actually super age appropriate until they're around 7 years of age. So just giving them really clear models back, their brain is hearing it and it's kind of mapping it in their brain, and they're being sponges and taking in all the information. If you feel like your child is having trouble being understood by a lot of people, or the majority of what they're saying is unclear or difficult to be understood even by you as the primary caregiver or their teachers, feel free to reach out to me too, and I can support you in that. As of all of these strategies, it's okay for your child not to repeat. Again, we want to take the pressure off of communicating and making it fun. We want to give lots of models until they feel comfortable to try something new, to say a new word, to follow a direction. So all of these strategies can be really helpful to give you something to do while you're doing that 3-3-1 model, right? The 3 minutes of learning a day, just in your everyday tasks. 3 times a week, reading a story or telling a story verbally through oral speaking. And then the 1 new activity a week where you're spending some more time learning something together. So those are some of my strategies and some ideas for you to help support your students' language development at home, either in the evenings, on the weekends, and during the summertime. All of these strategies are super appropriate for a child from the ages of 3 to 5 and beyond as well. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I cannot wait to see how your children learn and grow and develop their language. We will take some time for questions, and it could be in person or writing questions down and submitting them for me to respond to you at a later date. And again, I am here to talk with you. If you have any questions or concerns, if you want to have more activities or just ask about your child's development. So again, my name is Miranda Mast, and I am a speech language pathologist. I have included my email here, and please feel free to contact me with any questions. Your FSSs have also printed this presentation out, so you can take it home. My information is on that as well. So do not hesitate to contact me. Again, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.